And please welcome Naiyya Saggi, the founder of EDT, the platform that powering some of India's most exciting consumer venture. She's a first generation entrepreneur. She's more or less going to cover everything that we have discussed and everything that we are going to discuss. But before she comes onto the stage, I want your attention onto the AV. There is a small video that is going to pan in, and after that, Naiyya is going to take the stage. Dim the lights, we'll roll the video.
This is not a pitch or a brand. This is not a pitch or a brand film. Just real footage of a slightly mad bunch trying to do what's right and sometimes getting it wrong. Welcome to the world of EDT, where design earns trust visibly and technology is intelligent without making you feel dumb. Where better for you is a choice of materials, temperatures, and intent. Where products are shaped in communities before factories, and where we put anime everywhere because the category is so sterile. Where we win some, lose some, learn some. 1,000 plus orders, 11,000 plus waitlist, a community of 6,000. We couldn't be more grateful. We're not just a design company, or a tech company, or an appliance company. We're EDT, and we make the everyday extraordinary.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you please put your hands together for Naiyya Saggi one more time?
So first of all, I'm so excited to be here. I was supposed to be there in the morning to give the opening keynote, but I had a bit of an emergency at home, so couldn't make it in the morning. But I really, really wanted to be here, so here I am now. Ritu, thanks so much for adjusting the session for this time. I'm also very excited to meet the D2C ecosystem in Bangalore. A lot of friends, a lot of colleagues from before. So it's always exciting to be back in a city that has traditionally been all about AI and SaaS, and to see D2C really emerging as one of the core pillars of its growth today. I have been asked to speak on D2C who wins in the next 24 months. I am not a fortune teller or a soothsayer, but I am an operator. I have been building companies in the consumer tech and the brand space for the last 10 years. So what you hear for the next couple of minutes will just be my interpretation and my conviction on where D2C is headed. So please filter it for what you will. All of us are operators in this room, and we all have our own perspectives. What's been really interesting, and just some context before I dive into my thesis on this. I'm of course using EDT, my newest company, as almost like a example of how we've approached what we believe the landscape's going to evolve to. But just as context, my background has been, my first company after I moved back from the US was a company called Baby Chakra. It was a consumer tech platform, maternal and child health. We scaled to 25 million mothers, 10,000 doctors. We were doing machine learning, predictive algos. I had an engineering and tech team of about 60 to 65 people. Very, very different play. But really, I think the privilege of that journey was to really get into the minds and the homes and the hearts of the consumers at scale across India. It was a real privilege, and I think that was a very, very formative experience. Baby Chakra got acquired by a company called MyGlam. I joined as a co-founder. We built out what was the Good Glam Group. It was, I think, an experience that taught me a lot about how aspiration is built at scale. It was, it was a platform of brands, of content companies, and of community platforms. But, we had partnerships with, you name it, Manish Malhotra, Karan Johar. We actually launched in the US with Serena Williams with a brilliant product range called Win Beauty, which was, I think at that point in time, the largest beauty launch in the US of that year, which is significant to say the least. Good Glam didn't go the way we anticipated. I exited as soon as I vested, actually. And then I went on to build EDT. And with EDT, the premise was very, very specific this time around. It started off with a very fundamental thesis that the consumer of today, the Indian consumer of today, has fundamentally changed. And the brands of the future are not going to be built like the brands in the past were. That whole bidding on Meta, CAC optimization, discount-led growth, figuring out doing the primaries and then, kind of trying to hope valiantly for secondaries to pick up in offline distribution. we actually have an incredible opportunity as founders today because the Indian consumer has evolved to better. I've been saying this for the last 10 years, but in fact, the number has changed. 75% of India now lives in nuclear families, right? So that kind of is the starting point of all the evolution on the consumer end. You're living in modern homes, smaller homes mainly. You have a very curated house. The devices, the products you bring are very thoughtfully chosen for the most part. The consumer is more discerning. There's a very, very large tectonic shift on the health and wellness. I mean, all of us kind of tracked the craze around high rocks recently, right? Who in their senses would put themselves through that torture for months and then run that race? But people have done it. 8,000 people did it in Bangalore, right? So there's these tectonic shifts we're seeing in the Indian consumer of today. There's also a large piece around safety. There was, an initial trend around safety that a lot of brands catalyzed, but there's a large trend around safety that actually still becomes even more amplified today. But I think the other piece that I want to talk about is that, and this is where I really want to bring in what my thesis is, that Indian consumers are not just looking for a product, they're looking for an ecosystem approach. And any brand, any company that approaches the consumer with an ecosystem approach has a right to win. That ecosystem today necessarily comprises of these three pillars. By the way, these are EDT's three pillars as well. One is that it has to be design-led. And I don't just mean like a superficial CMF, as we call it in hardware, color material finish. It is not a superficial veneer. It is not about going to that same contract manufacturer, picking up the product, putting up a nice fancy label and selling it in the market. When we talk about design-led, we're talking about things like ergonomics, we're talking about modularity, we're talking about design even in the back end, right? So when you're thinking about your component pieces, how do they fit into different parts of a consumer's life? We're talking about attachments, accessories, right? And of course, we talk about aesthetics. There's a big element of design-led and design thinking as a new brand approaches this market. The second, I think, a no-brainer, and this is where I end up bringing a lot of my consumer tech background in, is just tech. And what I find interesting is the privilege of being an investor, like a small angel in a couple of amazing, amazing founders building in D2C businesses. For them, it feels like tech is like one end of the spectrum. It's like, that's a tech founder, that's a consumer founder. But the brands of tomorrow are not thinking like that. Founders of tomorrow are not thinking like that. Founders of tomorrow are thinking consumer and tech go together. And it need not be fancy, flashy tech. It's actually just very stable, intuitive tech, right? And we'll talk more about actually in the next panel. But I think tech is a very, very integral part of how you build brands for tomorrow without hoping desperately that Meta doesn't block you one day. And the third thing is, I think it still comes back to that core. You're a brand building in 2026. We need to do better. It has to be a safer outcome. It has to be better for you, materials and outcomes both. So while people might still not pay that premium for sustainability, but give comp to comp, the customer does choose a better answer, a safer answer, a more sustainable answer. And, by very conservative approximations, there are more than 30 million individuals in India that fall in this cohort. Probably this entire room is part of this cohort and more. But I'll give you an interesting factoid. It's not just about this cohort. There is a very, very strong aspiration for better products and solutions in India today. From my industry, my new industry now, did you know that 65% of all devices, home appliances, bought in India above 8,000 rupees are bought on EMIs? I'm going to let that register. It means aspiration has really percolated. So it's no longer whether your household income, that doesn't define aspiration. You define aspiration, and these platforms help you meet that bridge of that aspiration. And that's where we decided to really double down with EDT as well. Something we call internally the least common denominator. And that's where the thesis really kicks in for EDT. EDT, by the way, literally stands for Everyday Design and Technology. And our mission is through design and technology, make every day extraordinary. And when we looked at homes and we went to hundreds of homes across India, what we realized was Indian families and Indian individuals were subject to what we call the least common denominator phenomenon. What is that? You have a bunch of international Indian brands going, picking up off the shelf products, bringing it to India and selling it with discounts. That was the story of appliances till very recently. And that has to change. Because even if you look at international brands coming into India, and there are a few amazing ones coming in, but they've been developed and manufactured and sort of conceptualized. Their R&D is globally located. What about Indian foods, Indian cookings, Indian hair, Indian skin? Who is thinking about that? Those nuances, Indian kitchens. I'll give you an example, a very interesting conversation my ID head and I were industrial design head and I were having. Indian kitchens are naturally oily, right? So the surfaces of our appliances need to be easy swipe. But if you look at most, and people love now the whites and the beiges, right? But when we were deciding on our final sort of CMF, we had to keep that in mind because a lot of ambient oil in Indian kitchens, which a lot of international brands don't keep in mind. Or for instance, when we launched the Luma, our first product, it's an intelligent air fryer, the programming had to evolve to basically saying, hey, if somebody's cooking Indian tikka in this, or they're making a fish in this, or they're making paneer in this, right? No global air fryer brands really understand paneer and the texture it takes in an air fryer or in an oven. It's a very specific texture. How do you explain it? There's no English word for paneer also. It's cottage cheese at best. And that's not paneer, the way we know it. So I think these were sort of the gaps we wanted to fulfill. And in fact, therefore, the belief we have is that devices today that EDT will launch will be intelligent by design. They'll be designed for you. It should feel like in a market that's highly commoditized, does this device feel like it was made for a market of one? And it is premium without compromise. And I want to touch upon that a little bit more. Arindam, who's a dear friend of mine, he's at Attenberg. Him and I have a lot of engaged chats about what premium really means in India. And oftentimes people are like, oh, if I price it premium, it becomes premium. Or if I just make it look fancy, it's premium. But again, it comes back to the point I made in the very beginning. D2C brands of the future who are focusing on a premium audience will build with a premium ecosystem in mind. And that is what will really define premium. And it starts from the very beginning. It's premium in every decision, in the product itself, right? The finish, the colors, the materials you chose. We took a very counterintuitive bet. We launched with glass in an air fryer. It's a very counterintuitive bet. When we launched it, we were told we were mad. But it just felt like the right choice for the premium consumer because there was a dissonance. The consumer who was premium and aspired to an air fryer for healthy goals, weight loss, etc., was stuck with Teflon-coated, non-stick products. And they wanted better. And glass was better. So it's premium in the product itself. It's premium also because we listen. Founders of tomorrow, I've built communities all my life. And EDT, Luma was also a function of that community, right? We actually built out a community of design and tech tastemakers. We heard them, we went to their homes, we saw how they operated. We actually worked with them to build out the right product. In fact, even just yesterday, we changed our grill in the air fryer, the crisper tray, to add some handles to it. And we did it very quickly because we're a young, small, agile team. I'm the oldest of the lot in my team. And we could do it because we were listening to our community. We built out a community called The Edit, more than 6,000 people. And I think this community centricity is not just having an audience on Instagram, it is actual community that you're building with. The third thing is, of course, AI. Of course, AI. And it is phenomenal because what we've done is we've launched this thing. So again, choosing our platform well. We've launched this AI agent on WhatsApp. It's a universal platform. You can take a photo of the food in your fridge or the ingredients on your kitchen counter and say, hey, I want to make a recipe in under 15 minutes, under 200 calories. And Recipe Ramsey, our AI agent, will give you a recipe for the Luma. Contextual to you, customized to you, and learning from you. So of course, AI comes in to hyper-personalize the experience, which makes the feeling and the outcome feel premium. And the last, of course, is customer experience. We were talking about it offline as well. After sales is a very, very critical touch point that most brands miss out on. And of course, in our category, it's super critical, but in any category, it's critical. And again, premium doesn't mean you have to call up a call center 15 times and say, hey, can somebody please help me with this product? It means somebody coming home to pick it up or repair it for you on the spot within 24 hours or 18 hours, depending on your location. So premium is an ecosystem. This is our first product. And I just want to talk and just double click before I end that the best D2C brands of the future will not just be built with, again, the product at the heart of it. It is about that ecosystem of which culture and community play an inordinately important role. And it is about culture. It is about saying that, hey, can we make this crazy decision and launch an orange air fryer? Can we put anime on our packaging, on our website, completely breaking category codes? Because that's where culture's at today. And I can talk about 15 other brands that have done this. But that is for an offline conversation. I have limited time today. But that is really where the brands of the future will be built. Again, it is not about just saying meta ads, optimization, contract manufacturing, white labeling, distribution, chap do, discount kar do, bech do. It is about building an ecosystem where community and culture play an inordinately important role, especially if you're building a premium play. And in the last 150 days since launch, actually this number needs to be updated, we've sold more than 7,000 Lumas. We haven't discounted at all. We refuse to. And I think that's going to be part of our philosophy. But more importantly, what we track very closely is about how much love we get, the organic shout-outs, the repeat purchases, the NPS scores, the field failure rates, because again, premium means being reliable. So I think it comes back to that. It's what I'm saying is not rocket science. It's an operator's perspective. I'm living this journey again for the third time in my life. And I'm just sharing my thoughts. There's a lot more to unpack here, but I'm very happy to open it up for some questions before we move on to the panel. Thank you.
We'll take about 2 questions.
Questions there?
If Ritu says more, then we could take 3. 2? Yeah, we'll take 2 questions, please.
Hi.
Hi.
So when you say community, where do you maintain them? Like just mail, or you do a meetups, coffee meets, or WhatsApp? So where do you do these interactions?
Great question. So my first company, Baby Chakra, we had a digital app. So we had an app and we had a mobile web ecosystem. This time, of course, that's not our core product, right? Like these products are our core products. So we said, what are the watering holes, as we call it? Where do people hang out? WhatsApp. So we've actually built these communities on WhatsApp where we do everything from co-creating our products out with them, where we share recipes, community members share recipes, what they've been cooking in the Luma, down to people sharing experiences, adding friends, adding family, adding workmates in. So WhatsApp is our primary mode of communication today. It the other thing is I am a big believer that you can't just exist only virtually. We do very specific meetups as well. I'll give you 3 examples. One was, it was incredible. One was actually a walkthrough for we call the community the Edit. It's a play on EDT. We actually did a walkthrough of the Mercedes factory just off Pune with the CEO himself, Santosh, who's very kind. Because we have the same principles, right? Design and technology and building in India for a premium discerning audience. So the community, we actually had 50 people flying from all over India who were community members on their own. We're a young pre-seed startup. We don't have the money, but they all flew in, and Santosh led us through the entire premises.
Hi, Naiyya.
Hi.
Remarkable insights. Thank you for that. I'm Shravan, founder of iGo. We have a similar philosophy, building, design-led and consumer-focused for mobility space. So my question is, yes, while we have this premium in mind, right? How do you navigate the fundraising journey where the potentially the TAM needs to be higher, where mass market is automatically assumed, right? So this is understood to be very niche, even though we know that it is not. Even that niche is a significant chunk in this markets. How do you navigate that part where the potential for scale is very high and automatically assumed you have to compete in the mass market and premium wouldn't suffice?
It's a good question. I can tell you more offline as well. But I think See, I've been very fortunate this time around. I found, and I think learning from my last two experiences as well, one of the most important choices you'll be making is a choice of investor. And, we have Kaval here, who's one of the most brilliant minds there is as well. But when I went out fundraising, I actually really thought about who would fit what we were building and understand the mission that we were after. The idea is that with EDT, we want to be the brand of choice for the premium discerning, we call it global citizen in India. That is the premium audience. But when we build for this audience, it also gives us the right to win in global markets in future. So when I was sharing this vision, right, there were some people who got it and some people who didn't. And the people who got it, there was a meeting of minds immediately. So we actually, Manu was a lead investor from Sauce, who's been absolutely brilliant and been behind all the brands like, Mokobara, Hoko, Whole Truth, the works, right? Innovest, etc. So we immediately got it. The other thing I did was I also looked for angel investors, right? Who've built brands for premium audiences or built for international markets. So Vatsal at Ultra Human, Varun at Urban Company, Mithun at Carrot Lane. He did his personal check, which he never does normally in EDT. Also so we got in folks like this, Bala at Vadam. So I think you have to go around finding the right fit from an investor perspective for yourself. And the onus lies on you as an entrepreneur. And there'll be enough people who, I think everybody's talking about the premiumization opportunity. So it's no longer like a myth or that a formist like unicorn that was there. It's actually there. It's before us. So I think you'll find enough people who'll back your vision, but you'll have to go out and find them. Thanks.
Thank you. That is it from the question. Brilliant question. Thank you for brilliantly answering it. We would want you to stay. May I please request Gunjan Jabal to kindly join us, please. Head of Sales and Partnership, PhonePe, to kindly present a token of gratitude. Thank you. It's just a temporary exit from the stage. She's going to be back soon.